Teacher ridicules black boy who says his dad works at the Pentagon. Then his dad walks into the room. Marcus Williams adjusted his backpack straps as he walked through the gates of Westfield Preparatory Academy in Boston. The autumn leaves crunched beneath his feet, a sound that usually brought him comfort, but today only emphasized his isolation. At 11 years old, he'd learned to navigate the careful balance between being himself and being what others expected. His father, David Williams, dropped him off every morning in their modest Honda Accord, a stark contrast to the parade of luxury vehicles that dominated the school's circular drive. David always wore simple clothes, khakis and button-downs that never quite seemed to fit right, as if he'd grabbed them without looking. "Remember what we talked about," David said that morning, his dark eyes serious behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Sometimes the most important things are the ones we don't discuss." Marcus nodded, understanding the familiar reminder. His father worked for the Department of Defense in cyber intelligence, but Marcus had learned early that most people either didn't believe it or didn't understand what it meant. At Westfield, where parents were senators and CEOs with recognizable names, a government employee who couldn't discuss his work seemed like an excuse, a cover for something less impressive. The morning started like any other in Mr. Harrison's social studies class. Bradley Harrison had taught at Westfield for 23 years, his classroom walls lined with photos of him with various political figures and wealthy donors. He prided himself on knowing every important family in Boston's elite circles. "Today we'll continue our presentations about civic engagement," Mr. Harrison announced, his grey beard perfectly trimmed, his navy blazer bearing the Westfield crest. "Who would like to share how their family contributes to society?" Hands shot up around the room. Charlotte Brennan went first, describing her mother's position as a federal judge. Then came Alexander Chen, whose father ran a pharmaceutical company. Each presentation was met with Mr. Harrison's approving nods and encouraging comments. When Marcus raised his hand, Mr. Harrison's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. "Yes, Marcus." "My father works in national security," Marcus began, standing beside his desk. "He helps protect our country's digital infrastructure from foreign threats." A snicker came from the back of the room, where Trevor Ashford sat with his group. Trevor's father owned 3 tech companies and never let anyone forget it. Mr. Harrison's lips curved into what might have been a smile, but felt more like condescension. "That's very creative, Marcus. But remember, these presentations are meant to be factual." "It is factual," Marcus insisted, his voice steady despite the heat rising in his cheeks. "Of course it is," Mr. Harrison replied, his tone suggesting the opposite. "Perhaps your father works in IT support. That's certainly valuable work." The class erupted in scattered laughter. Marcus felt his hands clench at his sides. "He works in cyber intelligence. He has security clearance that—" "That's enough, Marcus," Mr. Harrison interrupted, his voice carrying that particular teacher authority that brooked no argument. "We appreciate your imagination, but let's move on to someone else." Marcus sat down, his face burning. Beside him, his only real friend at Westfield, Jamie Rodriguez, shot him a sympathetic look. Jamie understood what it was like to be different here. His mother was a nurse, his father a construction foreman, honest work that somehow wasn't impressive enough for Westfield standards. The rest of the day passed in a blur of whispered comments and pointed looks. By lunch, the story had spread. Marcus Williams had tried to claim his father was some kind of spy. The embellishments grew with each telling. That evening, Marcus found his father in his home office, 3 computer monitors displaying code he couldn't understand. David looked up as his son entered. "Rough day?" he asked, reading Marcus's expression with the same precision he applied to analyzing threat patterns. Marcus explained what had happened, watching his father's jaw tighten with each detail. When he finished, David was quiet for a long moment. "Mr. Harrison," he said finally, "I've heard that name before." "You have?" David turned back to his screens. His son graduated from Westfield 8 years ago, tried to get a position with a defense contractor, failed the security screening. Why? That's classified, David said automatically, then softened. But prejudice against people who don't look or act like them runs deep in that family. Marcus understood. It wasn't just about not believing him. It was about not wanting to believe him. There's a parent-teacher conference next week, Marcus said hopefully. David's expression was unreadable. I'll see what I can do. Over the next few days, the mockery intensified. Trevor Ashford had appointed himself the ringleader, creating elaborate jokes about Marcus's secret agent father. Even students who hadn't been in Mr. Harrison's class joined in, eager to be part of the dominant social circle. "Hey, Williams," Trevor called out during gym class. "Did your dad decode any secret messages in his mum's basement last night?" The laughter that followed felt like physical blows. Coach Murphy, who might have intervened, simply looked the other way. The social hierarchy at Westfield was clear, and Marcus was firmly at the bottom. Jamie tried to defend him. "Leave him alone, Trevor. You don't know anything about his dad." "I know he drives a Honda," Trevor shot back. "Real high-level government officials don't drive 10-year-old Accords." That afternoon, something unusual happened. As Marcus waited for his father outside school, he noticed a black Suburban with tinted windows parked across the street. A woman in a dark suit stood beside it, appearing to text on her phone, but Marcus caught her glancing at the school entrance repeatedly. When David arrived, Marcus saw his father's eyes immediately lock onto the vehicle. Something passed across his face, recognition, maybe concern, before he schooled his expression back to neutral. "Get in," David said quietly. As they drove away, Marcus looked back to see the woman speaking into what looked like a radio. "Dad, who was that?" "No one you need to worry about," David replied, but his knuckles were white on the steering wheel. That night, Marcus woke to the sound of his father's voice from downstairs, low and urgent. He crept to the top of the stairs, straining to hear. "Confirmed breach at 0200 hours. Yes, sir. I understand the implications. The Thornfield documents. I'll increase security protocols immediately." Marcus returned to bed, mind racing. The Thornfield documents. He'd heard that name on the news. Something about leaked intelligence that had compromised several overseas operations. The next morning, David seemed distracted, checking his phone constantly. As they pulled up to Westfield, he turned to Marcus with unusual intensity. "If anything strange happens today, anything at all, you call me immediately. Understand?" Marcus nodded, unnerved by his father's tone. The day started normally enough, but by third period, Marcus noticed something odd. There was a new janitor, a man with Eastern European features who seemed more interested in watching the hallways than cleaning them. When Marcus made eye contact, the man quickly looked away, pushing his cart around the corner. During Mr. Harrison's class, the teacher seemed particularly smug. "Before we begin today, I wanted to address something. It's come to my attention that some students have been making extraordinary claims about their families. While creativity is admirable, academic integrity requires honesty." His gaze settled on Marcus with unmistakable meaning. "Therefore, I've invited parents to attend next week's conference to verify their children's presentations. I'm sure we'll all find the truth illuminating." Trevor and his friends exchanged delighted looks. The humiliation would be complete when Marcus's father either didn't show up or revealed himself to be exactly what they suspected, nobody important. That afternoon, the new janitor appeared outside Mr. Harrison's classroom, fumbling with keys near the door. Something about his movements seemed rehearsed, too deliberate. Marcus watched him through the window, noting how his eyes swept the room's interior, lingering on the computer and filing cabinets. When the final bell rang, Marcus hurried to find Jamie. "Something's wrong." "That new janitor." "He's not really a janitor." Jamie looked skeptical. "How do you know?" "His shoes," Marcus said. "They're tactical boots, military grade. My dad has the same ones. And he's got an earpiece, the kind security uses." Before Jamie could respond, the lights flickered throughout the building. Then the fire alarm began blaring, but it sounded wrong, stuttering and irregular, like someone was manually triggering it. Students poured into the hallways in confusion. Teachers tried to maintain order, directing everyone toward exits. But the alarm's erratic pattern was disorienting. In the chaos, Marcus saw the fake janitor moving against the flow of students, heading toward the administrative offices. He pulled out his phone to call his father, but there was no signal. That never happened at Westfield. They had cell towers specifically installed for the school. "We need to get out," Marcus told Jamie, real fear creeping into his voice. They joined the crowd, pushing toward the main entrance, but as they reached the doors, security guards, not the usual ones Marcus recognized, were directing students back inside. "Safety protocol," one announced with an accent Marcus couldn't place. "Please return to your classrooms." Mr. Harrison appeared, looking flustered. "What's going on?" "These aren't our security personnel." "Special drill, sir," the guard replied smoothly. "Authorized by the administration." But Marcus saw the principal, Dr. Peterson, looking just as confused as everyone else. This wasn't authorized by anyone at the school. Suddenly, Marcus's phone buzzed with a single text from his father. "Hide. Now." Without hesitation, Marcus grabbed Jamie's arm and ducked into a supply closet as another wave of students passed. Through the door's ventilation grate, they watched legs hurry past. "What are we doing?" Jamie whispered. "My dad said to hide." "Something's really wrong." They heard shouting from somewhere in the building, then what sounded like a door being forced open. Marcus's heart pounded as footsteps approached their hiding spot, but they continued past. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, Marcus heard a familiar voice in the hallway, his father's, but with an edge he'd never heard before. "Building is compromised. I need immediate backup. Westfield Academy, possible kidnapping attempt in progress." Marcus peered through the grate to see his father moving down the hallway with practiced precision, no longer the mild-mannered parent who dropped him off each morning. He held himself differently, alert and coiled like a spring. Behind him, 2 agents in FBI windbreakers followed. David stopped at their closet door as if he knew exactly where they were. "Marcus, Jamie, come out. Stay close to me." They emerged to find the hallway transformed. Federal agents were everywhere, securing doorways and escorting confused students and teachers to designated areas. The fake janitor was on the ground in handcuffs, being read his rights by a stern-faced woman. "Dad?" Marcus said in amazement. "Later," David replied tersely. "Right now, we move." They were escorted to the library, which had been converted into a command center. Laptops and communication equipment covered tables where students usually studied. Agent Sarah Chen, whom Marcus recognized as the woman from the Black Suburban, was coordinating the operation. "We've identified 3 operatives," she reported to David, 2 in custody, 1 still at large. "Check the basement," David said. "If they're after what I think they are, they'll need access to the school's server room." Mr. Harrison stood in the corner, his face pale. "What is happening? Who are these people?" David turned to him with cold eyes. "These people are foreign operatives who've been using your school as a gateway to access sensitive information through your poorly secured network. They've been monitoring communications between government officials, children, and their parents, looking for vulnerabilities." That's impossible," Mr. Harrison stammered. "Is it?" David asked. You have children of 12 federal employees, 8 defense contractors, and 3 intelligence officers attending this school. Your cybersecurity's a joke. I could have told you that from the parking lot. You've made Westfield a perfect target. Agent Chen interrupted. We've got movement in the basement. David looked at Marcus. Stay here with Agent Morris. Don't leave this room. As his father left, Marcus found himself the center of attention. Students and teachers stared at him with expressions ranging from awe to disbelief. Trevor Ashford, for once, had nothing to say. Mr. Harrison approached slowly. Your father, he really does work in national security. Cyber intelligence, Marcus corrected, unable to keep the satisfaction from his voice. Like I told you. The teacher's face flushed deep red. I apologize. I should have believed you. Before Marcus could respond, they heard a commotion from the hallway. Through the library's glass doors, they saw David and several agents rushing past. Then the lights went out completely. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. Agent Morris, a young man who'd been assigned to watch them, immediately moved to secure the doors. Everyone remain calm, he instructed. This is probably just... The window behind him exploded inward. A figure in black tactical gear swung through, landing in a crouch. Before Agent Morris could react, the intruder had disarmed him with a swift strike. Students screamed, scrambling away from the threat. The intruder's eyes swept the room and locked onto Marcus. There you are, he said with a thick accent, the son of David Williams. You'll make excellent leverage. Marcus backed away, but there was nowhere to run. The man advanced, reaching for something in his belt, a syringe, Marcus realized with terror. Leave him alone! Jamie suddenly shouted, throwing a heavy textbook at the intruder's head. The distraction was minimal, but it was enough. The library doors burst open and David appeared, moving with lethal grace. In seconds, he had the intruder on the ground, the syringe skittering across the floor. Anton Volkov, David said, his knee pressed into the man's back. Still upset about Belgrade, I see. The man, Volkov, snarled something in Russian. You took everything from me, he spat in accented English. My network, my reputation, now I take your son. You already tried that, David replied calmly as agents flooded in to secure Volkov. Failed then, failing now. As Volkov was dragged away, David turned to Marcus, his professional mask slipping to reveal a father's concern. Are you hurt? Marcus shook his head, adrenaline making him shaky. Jamie helped. He distracted him. David looked at Jamie with genuine gratitude. Thank you. That was brave. Is it over? Dr. Peterson asked, emerging from where she'd been cowering behind the reference desk. Almost, Agent Chen answered, entering with her tablet. We've swept the building. 3 operatives in custody, no others detected. The basement server was their target. They were trying to install a backdoor into the DoD network through the school's connection. She looked at David meaningfully. They knew you had a son here. This was targeted. David nodded grimly. Volkov's been hunting me since Belgrade. He must have tracked me through Marcus's school records. Mr. Harrison, who had been silent throughout the confrontation, finally spoke. Mr. Williams, I owe you and your son a profound apology. My prejudice and assumptions not only hurt Marcus, but potentially put everyone at risk. If I had taken him seriously, perhaps we could have improved security sooner. David studied the teacher for a long moment. Perhaps. But the real question is what you'll do now. The aftermath was swift and comprehensive. The FBI's Cyber Crimes Unit descended on Westfield, conducting a thorough investigation of how the school's network had been compromised. It turned out the vulnerability had existed for months, possibly years, making the school a goldmine for anyone seeking information about high-profile families. The media coverage was intense, but carefully controlled. The official story mentioned only a security incident that had been swiftly resolved. David's name was kept out of it, though anyone at Westfield knew the truth. When school resumed 3 days later, Marcus returned to find his social landscape completely transformed. Students who had mocked him now approached with mixture of respect and curiosity. Trevor Ashford actually apologized, though Marcus suspected it had more to do with his parents' instructions than genuine remorse. Mr. Harrison had taken a leave of absence, officially for professional development, but everyone knew it was disciplinary. His replacement, Ms. Jennifer Park, made a point of meeting with Marcus on her first day. "I've reviewed what happened," she said. "Not just the security incident, but how you were treated before it. I want you to know that won't happen again. Not in my classroom." The parent-teacher conference proceeded as scheduled, though with a very different atmosphere than Mr. Harrison had intended. David attended in a simple suit, but everyone knew who he was now. What struck Marcus most was how his father commanded respect without trying. It was in his bearing, his quiet confidence, the way he assessed every room he entered. During the presentation portion, Marcus stood with new confidence. "My father works in cyber intelligence for the Department of Defense," he said clearly. "His job is to identify and neutralize threats to our national security, particularly in the digital realm. Most of his work is classified, which is why I couldn't provide details before." No one laughed, no one questioned. The room was silent with attention. "Recent events have shown why this work is important," Marcus continued. "Threats can come from anywhere, even places we think are safe. My father taught me that the best protection is the kind you never see until you need it." David watched from the back of the room, a small smile on his face. After the presentations, several parents approached him, some to thank him, others to network. He handled both with the same polite distance. Dr. Peterson pulled him aside. "Mr. Williams, I wanted to discuss enhancing our security protocols. Would you be willing to consult?" "I can recommend someone," David replied. "I prefer to maintain a lower profile." "Of course." "And Marcus, he's welcome here as long as you're comfortable with the security situation." David glanced at his son, who was actually laughing with a group of classmates, something he'd rarely seen at Westfield. "We'll see," he said. That evening, as they drove home, Marcus was unusually quiet. "What are you thinking about?" David asked. Volkov said Belgrade. "That's in Serbia, right? What happened there?" David was silent for a moment. "That's classified. But he knew you. He came here specifically because of you." "Yes." Marcus absorbed this. "Are there others? Other people who might come after us?" David's hands tightened slightly on the wheel. "Possibly. But that's why we're careful. Why we don't advertise what I do. Today was an anomaly. Because someone at school, Mr. Harrison, didn't believe me and made me a target by making fun of me. Partially, but also because Volkov was desperate and sloppy. Most operatives wouldn't risk such a public action." They drove in silence for a while before Marcus spoke again. "I want to learn what you do. Coding? All of it? The security stuff, the analysis, how to spot threats. I want to be able to protect myself and others." David glanced at his son, seeing a maturity that hadn't been there a week ago. "That's a serious decision." "I'm serious. Then we'll start with the basics. Cybersecurity first, then observation techniques. But Marcus, this isn't a game. Once you start seeing the world this way, you can't unsee it." "I know," Marcus said quietly. "I already can't unsee it." Over the following weeks, life settled into a new normal. The obvious security presence around Westfield gradually decreased. Though Marcus knew they were still being watched, he'd learned to spot the signs. David began teaching him in earnest how to recognize surveillance, basic encryption, the fundamentals of network security. The social dynamics at school had permanently shifted. Marcus was no longer an outsider, though he didn't quite fit into any established group either. He existed in a unique space, respected but not quite understood. Jamie remained his closest friend, one of the few who treated him the same as before. "It's weird, isn't it?" Jamie said one day at lunch. "How everyone acts different now." "They're afraid," Marcus observed. "Not of me, but of what I represent. The unknown." "You sound like your dad." Marcus smiled slightly. "Is that bad?" "No, just different. You're different now." It was true. The experience had changed him, aged him in ways his classmates couldn't understand. He noticed things now. The security cameras' blind spots, the new protocols for visitor check-ins, the way certain teachers watched him with a mixture of respect and unease. Mr. Harrison returned after a month, subdued and carefully professional. He treated Marcus with exaggerated fairness, which was almost worse than the previous dismissiveness. During a lesson on government structure, he called on Marcus to explain intelligence agency organization. "I'd rather not," Marcus said politely but firmly. "That's not my area of expertise." Mr. Harrison flushed but moved on quickly. The power dynamic had shifted irreversibly. One evening, 3 months after the incident, David called Marcus into his office. Multiple screens showed various news feeds and data streams. "There's something you should know," he said. "Volkov is talking. He's providing information in exchange for a reduced sentence." "About what?" "About a larger network. He wasn't working alone. There's an entire organization that targets families of intelligence personnel. What happened at Westfield was part of a broader operation." Marcus felt a chill. "Are we in danger?" "No more than usual. But it means we need to be more careful. I'm considering pulling you from Westfield." "No," Marcus said quickly. "That's what they want, to make us afraid, to disrupt our lives." David studied his son. "You're sure?" "Yes. Besides, Westfield is safer now than it's ever been. You made sure of that. It was true. The school had implemented state-of-the-art security measures, both digital and physical. They'd hired a former NSA analyst as their IT security director. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The school that had dismissed Marcus's claims about his father now had one of the most sophisticated security systems of any private school in the country. The year progressed with a strange normalcy. Marcus excelled in his studies, particularly in computer science and mathematics. His teacher, Mr. Chen, recognized his aptitude and began providing advanced materials. "You have a gift for pattern recognition," Mr. Chen told him. "Have you considered competitive programming?" Marcus had, but David advised against it. "Competitions create records, profiles. Better to develop your skills quietly." It was the constant balance they lived with now, the desire for normal achievement versus the need for operational security. Marcus learned to navigate it, to excel without standing out too much. Trevor Ashford, surprisingly, had become something close to a friend. His brush with real danger had shocked him out of his privileged bubble. "I never thought about it before," he admitted one day, "how there are actual threats out there. My dad always talks about market competition like it's warfare, but it's not really." "Most people don't have to think about it," Marcus replied. "That's the point of security, so others can live without fear." "Is that why your dad does it?" Marcus considered the question. "Partly, but also because he's good at it, because someone has to." Spring arrived with unusual warmth. The school's spring carnival proceeded without incident, though Marcus noticed the plainclothes security officers mixed among the parents. He'd gotten good at spotting them, the way they stood, how their eyes moved, the subtle bulge of concealed weapons. During the carnival, Dr. Peterson approached David, who was manning the ring toss booth with other parents. Mr. Williams, I wanted to thank you again. Not just for what you did, but for allowing Marcus to remain here. I know it couldn't have been an easy decision. Marcus made the decision, David replied. I just supported it. He's remarkable. His teachers all say the same. Brilliant, observant, mature beyond his years. He's had to grow up fast, David said, a hint of regret in his voice. That evening, as they helped clean up after the carnival, Agent Chen appeared. Marcus recognized her immediately despite her casual clothes. We need to talk, she told David quietly. They stepped aside, but Marcus could see the tension in his father's posture. When David returned, his face was carefully neutral. What is it? Marcus asked. Volkov's intel led to a larger discovery. There's going to be an operation. Multi-agency, international scope. Are you involved? I have to be. The cyber component is too critical. Marcus understood what this meant. His father would be gone, possibly for weeks, possibly in danger. When? Soon. We'll need to make arrangements for you. I can stay with Mom, Marcus said. His parents were divorced but maintained a cordial relationship for his sake. His mother, a pediatric surgeon, had been horrified by the Westfield incident, but trusted David's judgment on security matters. That might be best, David agreed. The operation, when it came, was swift and silent. David left on a Tuesday morning, giving Marcus a longer hug than usual. Be careful, he said. Stay alert. If anything seems wrong, call Agent Chen. Go to the safe house, follow the protocols, Marcus recited. I know, Dad. David smiled slightly. You do know. I'm proud of you. Living with his mother in her Back Bay townhouse was different, but not unpleasant. Dr. Lisa Chen, she'd kept her maiden name, was brilliant in her own way, though her expertise was in healing rather than intelligence. Your father's work is important, she said one evening over dinner, but I wish it didn't touch your life so directly. It was always going to, Marcus replied, whether we knew it or not. At least now we're prepared. She studied him with a doctor's assessing gaze. You're too young to be this pragmatic. Maybe. But I'd rather be pragmatic than naive. At school, only Jamie knew David was gone. Marcus had learned to compartmentalize information, sharing only what was necessary. The skills his father taught him were becoming second nature. Awareness, discretion, analysis. 2 weeks into David's absence, something shifted. Marcus noticed it immediately. New faces in the neighborhood, patterns that didn't fit. A delivery van that made no deliveries. A jogger who ran the same route too precisely. He called Agent Chen from a burner phone David had given him. I'm being watched, he said without preamble. Are you sure? Her voice was instantly alert. Van outside Mum's house for 3 days. Blue jogger passes every morning at 7:23 and evening at 6:47. New barista at the coffee shop who watches everyone but makes terrible coffee. There was a pause. Good observation. We're on it. Can you get to school safely? Mum's driving me. Should I tell her? No, we don't want to alter behavior patterns. Act normally. Normal. Marcus almost laughed. Nothing about his life was normal anymore. The watchers disappeared as suddenly as they'd appeared, but Marcus knew they'd been real. Chen confirmed it later. Remnants of Volkov's network, conducting surveillance but nothing more. They're testing our responses, she explained, seeing how we react. What did you do? Let them know we were watching them watching you. It's a game, Marcus. Moves and counter-moves. David returned after 3 weeks, exhausted but uninjured. The operation had been successful. 12 arrests across 5 countries. A major intelligence network disrupted. The cyber component was crucial, he told Marcus. We traced financial transactions, communication patterns, digital footprints. It all came together. Did you get them all? David's expression was thoughtful. We got enough. You can never get them all. New threats emerge constantly, but we set them back significantly. They returned to their routine, but Marcus noticed subtle changes. David was teaching him more advanced techniques, treating him less like a child and more like an apprentice. "You have aptitude," he said during one session, "but aptitude without discipline is dangerous. I'm disciplined, in some ways, but you're also 11. You have to be both, a child and aware. It's not an easy balance, it wasn't." Marcus found himself caught between worlds, unable to fully relate to his classmates' concerns about grades and sports when he knew about real threats, real dangers, yet he also couldn't fully enter his father's world. He was too young, too inexperienced. The school year was ending when the next incident occurred. Not at Westfield this time, but at a youth coding camp Marcus attended on weekends. He'd noticed anomalies in the camp's network, unusual traffic patterns, unauthorized access attempts. He reported it to the instructor, who dismissed it as probably just kids trying to hack for fun. But Marcus knew better. The patterns were too sophisticated, too targeted. He called David, who arrived within an hour with a small team. "You were right," David confirmed after analyzing the network. "Industrial espionage. They were using the camp's connection to access the university's research servers." The camp director was mortified. How did Marcus notice what our security systems didn't? "Because he was trained to look," David replied simply. The incident earned Marcus quiet recognition in certain circles. Agent Chen started sending him practice scenarios to analyze. Other intelligence professionals began to take notice of David Williams's unusually capable son. "You're building quite a reputation," David observed one evening. "Is that bad?" "Not necessarily, but reputation is visibility, and visibility can be dangerous in our world." "Our world?" Marcus repeated. David smiled slightly. "You're already part of it, whether you choose to pursue it professionally or not. You see things others don't. You understand threats others can't imagine. That knowledge is both a gift and a burden." Summer arrived with its promise of vacation, but Marcus knew better. Threats didn't take vacations, neither did vigilance. His classmates talked about camps and trips abroad. Marcus would be spending his summer differently. Advanced coding courses, security training, and something David called practical observation exercises. "You mean surveillance detection," Marcus translated, "among other things." The first exercise came during a family trip to Washington, D.C., ostensibly tourist activities, actually a training ground. "3 people have been following us since the Lincoln Memorial," Marcus reported quietly as they walked through the Smithsonian. Description: woman, mid-30s, red backpack. Man, older, baseball cap, keeps checking his phone. Younger man, possibly college age, pretending to sketch. Good. They're friendlies, training exercise for new analysts. But you spotted them all. Marcus felt a surge of pride, quickly tempered by David's next words. "The 4th one you missed. Food vendor by the entrance. He's the actual surveillance coordinator." There was always more to learn, always another level of complexity. Marcus threw himself into the training with determination that surprised even David. "Why are you pushing so hard?" his father asked after a particularly intense session. "Because I don't want to be vulnerable again. I don't want others to be vulnerable because I missed something." David studied his son with an expression Marcus couldn't quite read. "That's a heavy responsibility to put on yourself." "Isn't that what you do?" "Yes," David admitted. "But I chose it as an adult. You're having it chosen for you." "No," Marcus corrected. "I'm choosing it now. After Westfield, after seeing what can happen when people are complacent or dismissive, I'm choosing to be prepared." By summer's end, Marcus had developed skills far beyond his years. He could spot surveillance, identify network vulnerabilities, and read people's intentions through their digital footprints. But David made sure he also remained a child, insisting on normal activities, time with friends, interests beyond security. Jamie visited often, one of the few people with whom Marcus could relax completely. They played video games and talked about normal things, though Jamie noticed the changes. "You're different," he said one day. "More serious." "Am I?" "Yeah, but not in a bad way, just older, I guess. Like you know things the rest of us don't." "I do," Marcus admitted. "But knowing isn't always better." 7th grade began with new challenges. Westfield had recruited him for their competitive cybersecurity team, a program that hadn't existed before the incident. Mr. Chen led it with enthusiasm, unaware that his star student was receiving training far beyond what any school could provide. The team competed nationally, and Marcus had to carefully calibrate his performance. Good enough to help them win, not so good as to draw unwanted attention. "It's exhausting," he told David after a competition, "pretending to know less than I do." "Welcome to intelligence work," David replied with dry humor. "Half the job is managing what others think you know." Trevor Ashford had joined the cybersecurity team too, showing unexpected aptitude. He and Marcus had developed an odd friendship based on mutual respect and shared experience. "My parents want me to thank you again," Trevor said one day, "for what your dad did. He was just doing his job." "No, it was more than that. He could have let us all learn the hard way what happens when we're careless and arrogant. Instead, he saved us." Marcus considered this. His father had saved them, but at a cost. Their innocence, their illusion of safety. Was that really salvation? The autumn passed quietly, but Marcus had learned that quiet didn't mean safe. He maintained his vigilance, noting patterns, watching for anomalies. It had become second nature, as automatic as breathing. Then in November, David received a call that changed everything. Marcus could tell something was wrong the moment his father answered the secure phone. David's face went through several expressions: surprise, concern, then determination. "I understand," he said finally. "When?" After ending the call, he sat quietly for a moment before looking at Marcus. "That was headquarters. I've been offered a position, Deputy Director of Cyber Intelligence." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "That's in Washington." "Yes." "We'd have to move." "Yes." They sat in silence, both understanding what this meant. Leaving Boston, leaving Westfield, starting over in a place where David's position would be even more sensitive, even more dangerous. "It's a desk job mostly," David continued. "Less fieldwork, more strategy and administration." "But more visible," Marcus added. "Deputy directors can't be anonymous." "No, they can't." Marcus thought about his life at Westfield, the hard-won respect, the fragile normalcy they'd built. Then he thought about the larger picture, the threats his father worked to prevent, the importance of having good people in positions of authority. "You should take it," he said finally. David looked surprised. "You're sure?" "It's important work, and I can adapt. You taught me how." Pride and sadness mixed in David's expression. "You shouldn't have to keep adapting." "But I can. That's what matters." The announcement of their move caused a stir at Westfield. Dr. Peterson personally expressed her regret at losing Marcus, while Mr. Harrison seemed almost relieved. The other students reacted with a mixture of awe and sympathy. Moving because your parent got promoted to a senior intelligence position was both cool and terrifying. "I'll miss you," Jamie said simply. "It won't be the same without you." "We'll stay in touch," Marcus promised. "Securely, of course." Jamie laughed. "Of course. Can't have foreign operatives reading our messages about video games." Agent Chen visited on their last week in Boston. "You did well here," she told Marcus. "Better than many trained adults would have. I had good teachers. You had good instincts." That can't be taught. She handed him a card. My direct line. If you ever need anything in DC, call me. Marcus understood the significance of the gesture. He was being acknowledged as more than just David Williams' son. He was becoming a recognized asset in his own right. The move to Washington came in January. Their new house in Arlington was larger but felt smaller, surrounded by other government families who understood the unspoken rules of their world. The neighbors' children didn't ask what their parents did. Everyone assumed everyone else was involved in something classified. Marcus's new school, Arlington Preparatory, was different from Westfield. Here, having a parent in intelligence was common. The security was better, the awareness higher. Marcus could blend in more easily, though his age and skills still set him apart. His computer science teacher, Ms. Yamamoto, was former NSA. She recognized his abilities immediately and pulled him aside after the first class. I know who you are, she said quietly. Your reputation precedes you. Marcus tensed. I'm just a student. Of course you are, she agreed with a knowing smile. But if you're interested, I run an unofficial advanced program. Real-world scenarios, practical applications. Think of it as pre-recruitment training. Marcus knew he should probably decline, maintain a lower profile. Instead, he found himself nodding. Good, Ms. Yamamoto said. We meet Thursdays after school. Officially, it's chess club. The program was everything she'd promised and more. 7 students, all with similar backgrounds, learning skills that went far beyond normal curriculum. They analyzed real breaches, sanitized of classified details, developed security protocols, and competed in capture-the-flag exercises that felt more like intelligence operations than games. You're the youngest here, observed Alexandra, a senior whose mother worked at CIA. But you're keeping up. I've had practice, Marcus replied. David, now deputy director, worked longer hours but seemed more settled. The administrative role suited him in ways fieldwork never had. He could see the bigger picture, coordinate responses, shape policy. Are you happy? Marcus asked one evening. Happy is complicated in our line of work, David replied, but I'm satisfied. I'm making a difference at a level I couldn't before. Our line of work, Marcus repeated. You keep saying that. Because it's true. You're not actively employed, but you're part of this world now. You've proven yourself capable. What if I wanted to do something else? Be a doctor like Mom, or a teacher, or anything normal? David smiled. Then you'd do it with the best situational awareness of any doctor or teacher in the country. But Marcus, you can't unknown what you know. You can choose not to use it professionally, but you'll always see the world differently. It was true. Marcus couldn't turn off the part of his brain that analyzed patterns, assessed threats, noticed anomalies. It had become fundamental to who he was. Spring in DC brought cherry blossoms and an unexpected visitor. Anton Volkov's son, Dmitri, now in witness protection after his father's conviction. The meeting was arranged through official channels, heavily monitored in a neutral location. Dmitri was older than Marcus, maybe 16, with his father's sharp features but softer eyes. I wanted to apologize, he said without preamble, for what my father tried to do. Marcus studied him carefully, looking for deception, finding only genuine regret. You're not responsible for your father's actions, Marcus replied. No, but I knew something. Not the details, but I knew he was planning something involving you. I should have warned someone. Why didn't you? Dimitri's expression was pained. He was my father. I thought he would stop on his own. They talked for an hour under the watchful eyes of security. Dmitri was brilliant, like Marcus, but his intelligence had been shaped by different forces: suspicion, survival, the constant balance of loyalty and morality. What will you do now? Marcus asked. University, hopefully. Computer science. Use my skills for something constructive. Good luck, Marcus said, meaning it. As Dmitri was escorted away, David emerged from an observation room. What did you think? He asked Marcus. He's sincere. Damaged, but sincere. Would you trust him? Marcus considered carefully. With limits. Trust but verify, as you always say. You're learning. Summer came with new challenges. David's position meant increased scrutiny on their family. Marcus noticed surveillance more frequently, not threats, but various agencies keeping tabs, ensuring the deputy director's family remained secure and uncompromised. It's protocol, David explained. They watch me to protect me and to make sure I'm not compromised. Do they watch me too? To some extent. You're considered a potential vulnerability and a potential asset. Marcus understood he was being evaluated even at 13 for future potential. It should have felt invasive, but instead it felt like recognition. The advanced program at school evolved into something more serious. Ms. Yamamoto began bringing in guest instructors, active intelligence officers who taught them things definitely not in any official curriculum. You're being groomed, Alexandra told him bluntly. We all are. This is how they identify future recruits. I know, Marcus replied. Does it bother you? Should it? Alexandra laughed. Most kids would be freaked out. But we're not most kids, are we? They weren't. They were the children of secrets, raised in the shadows of classified operations, trained to see what others missed. It was a strange childhood, but it was theirs. One Thursday, their chess club was visited by someone Marcus recognized, the Director of National Intelligence himself. He observed their exercise without comment, but Marcus caught him watching him specifically. Afterward, Ms. Yamamoto pulled Marcus aside. You impressed him, she said. That's rare. I was just doing the exercise. You identified a pattern everyone else missed, the backdoor vulnerability in the simulation. Even I hadn't spotted it. Marcus shrugged, uncomfortable with the attention. It was logical once you looked at the traffic patterns. Logic that evades most people. You have a gift, Marcus. The question is what you'll do with it. That question haunted him through the summer. He was 13, too young to make career decisions, yet the path seemed already laid out before him. Every skill he developed, every test he passed, every pattern he recognized moved him further along that path. Do I have a choice? He asked David one night. Always, his father replied firmly. These skills, this knowledge, they're tools. You can use them however you choose. Intelligence work is one option, but not the only one. But it's what I'm good at. You're good at many things. You're also 13. You have time to decide. Time, but not infinite time. Marcus could feel the weight of expectation from his father, from his teachers, from the shadowy figures who monitored his progress. He was being shaped for something specific, whether he chose it or not. 8th grade began with an unexpected development. A new student joined their advanced program, Natasha Petrov, the daughter of a reformed Russian intelligence officer who had defected years ago. She was brilliant, possibly more so than Marcus, with an edge that came from growing up even deeper in the intelligence world. You're William's son, she said at their first meeting. I've heard about you. All bad, I hope, Marcus replied, attempting humor. She smiled slightly, mostly impressed. You caught things at Westfield that experienced operatives missed. Lucky observation. There's no such thing as lucky in our world. Our world. Everyone kept saying that, as if it was predetermined, inevitable. Maybe it was. They worked together on increasingly complex scenarios. Natasha pushed him, challenged him in ways even the instructors didn't. She'd been training since she was younger than Marcus, shaped by her father's desire to prove his loyalty to his adopted country. It's exhausting, she admitted one day after a particularly intense exercise, always having to be better to prove we belong. Marcus understood. Despite his proven abilities, he still felt the weight of being young, of having to constantly demonstrate his worth. Maybe that's what makes us good, he suggested. The constant need to prove ourselves keeps us sharp. Or it breaks us, Natasha countered. I've seen what this world does to people. My father, your father, they carry weights we can't imagine. It was true. Marcus had noticed the changes in David since taking the deputy director position, the increased security, the constant vigilance, the way he could never fully relax even at home. Is it worth it? Marcus asked. Ask me in 10 years, Natasha replied, if we're still sane. The year progressed with a rhythm of school, training, and carefully managed normalcy. Marcus maintained friendships with regular students, played soccer badly, and attended school dances awkwardly. But always underneath was the awareness, the training, the knowledge that he was different. Then, in February, everything changed again. David came home early, which was unusual enough to put Marcus on alert. His father's expression was carefully neutral, but Marcus had learned to read the micro-expressions that betrayed real emotion. There's been a development, David said once they were in the secure room, a sound-proofed, electronically shielded space in their house. Related to Volkov. Marcus tensed. I thought he was in maximum security. He is. But he had contingencies we didn't know about. A dead man's switch. What kind? Information caches set to release if he didn't check in regularly. They've started surfacing intelligence dumps on various international servers, including information about us, including detailed files on Operation Belgrade, yes, and mentions of you. Marcus felt the cold grip of fear, quickly suppressed. How bad? Manageable. But it means increased security for both of us, and Marcus. David paused, choosing his words carefully. Some of the information suggests Volkov had a deeper network than we realized. There may be others who want to finish what he started. Revenge or leverage. You're more valuable now. You've proven yourself capable, and I'm in a senior position. That makes you a prime target. Marcus absorbed this information with the calm that had become his default. Panic didn't help. Analysis did. What do? We adapt our security protocols. You'll have a detail now, discreet but constant. Your school activities will be monitored more closely. And Marcus, I need you to be more vigilant than ever. I understand. The new reality set in quickly. Marcus spotted his security detail within days. Professionals who blended better than before, but still had tells he'd been trained to recognize. His routes to school varied daily. His communications were monitored with his knowledge. His freedom, already limited, contracted further. This sucks, Natasha said bluntly when she noticed his new shadows. Being watched constantly. It's necessary, Marcus replied, though he agreed with her assessment. Doesn't make it suck less. The leaked intelligence had another consequence. Marcus's name appeared in certain circles, identified as a potential future asset already demonstrating exceptional capability. He started receiving carefully worded messages through secure channels, early recruitment attempts from various agencies. They're circling, David observed with dry amusement, like sharks sensing blood. What do? Nothing for now. You're too young for official recruitment, but it's good to know you're on their radar. All of their radars, apparently. David's expression grew serious. That's both protection and danger. Multiple agencies watching means multiple layers of security, but it also means more people know about you. The school year ended with an unexpected honor. The Director of National Intelligence invited Marcus to a summer program typically reserved for college students, an intensive intelligence analysis course at a secure facility in Virginia. You'd be the youngest participant by 5 years, Ms. Yamamoto explained. It's unprecedented. Can I handle it? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Technically, absolutely. Emotionally, that's harder to say. You'd be working with adults on real intelligence problems. The pressure would be significant. Marcus looked at David, who remained carefully neutral. This had to be his decision. I'll do it, he said finally. The program was everything Ms. Yamamoto had warned and more. Marcus found himself in classes with college seniors and graduate students, analyzing real intelligence that had been sanitized just enough to be unclassified. He was the youngest by far, drawing curious and sometimes resentful looks. You're the prodigy, one student, Brad, said, with barely concealed irritation. The deputy director's son. I'm here like everyone else, Marcus replied evenly. Right, pure merit. Nothing to do with Daddy's position. Marcus felt anger rise but controlled it. Look at my work and decide for yourself. By the end of the first week, the resentment had largely faded. Marcus's analyses were consistently insightful, his pattern recognition exceptional. He found connections others missed, identified vulnerabilities in systems considered secure. How do you see these things? Asked Sarah, a graduate student from MIT. Practice, Marcus replied simply, and perspective. Sometimes being younger means fewer preconceptions. The program instructor, a veteran CIA analyst named Thompson, pulled him aside midway through. You're exceeding expectations, he said, but I want to caution you. This level of capability at your age can be isolating. It already is, Marcus admitted. It'll get worse. The more you develop these skills, the fewer people will understand you. The pool of potential friends, relationships, it shrinks. I know. Thompson studied him. Do you? Really? You're 14. 13, Marcus corrected. 13. Christ. At 13, you should be worried about algebra and girls, not international intelligence threats. But I'm not. And pretending otherwise doesn't change that. Thompson sighed. No, it doesn't. Just try to hold on to some normalcy. This world will consume you if you let it. The program concluded with a practical exercise, identifying a potential security threat from a data set of seemingly unrelated information. Marcus found himself paired with Brad, who had become grudgingly respectful. What are you seeing? Brad asked as they reviewed financial transactions, travel records, and communication metadata. Marcus highlighted several data points. These transactions, they're structured to look random, but there's a pattern. Every third transaction happens exactly 72 hours apart. Coincidence? Maybe, but look at the travel records. The same interval appears in flight bookings from these 3 individuals. They worked through the night, building a case that revealed what appeared to be a money laundering operation with potential terrorist connections. When they presented their findings, Thompson's expression was unreadable. This is excellent work, he said finally. So excellent that I need to make some calls. What you've identified might not be theoretical. The room went silent. They'd potentially uncovered an actual operation. Within hours, real investigators arrived. Marcus and Brad were debriefed extensively, their analysis verified and expanded. By the end, it was confirmed. They'd identified a previously unknown financial network funding extremist operations. You did that, Brad said afterward, stunned. I helped, but you saw the initial pattern. We did it together, Marcus insisted, though they both knew the truth. David arrived to pick him up, having been briefed on the discovery. His expression was a mixture of pride and concern. You uncovered an actual operation, he said once they were in the car. Accidentally. There are no accidents in intelligence work. You saw what trained analysts missed. Is that good or bad? David was quiet for a moment. Both. It confirms your exceptional capability, but it also puts you more firmly on certain radars. The recruitment will intensify. Yes, and Marcus, you need to understand, once you formally enter this world, leaving becomes very difficult. I know. Do you? At 13, can you really comprehend committing to a life of secrets, of constant vigilance, of threats that never fully go away? Marcus looked out the window at the Virginia countryside passing by. I'm already living that life. The only question is whether I make it official. David had no response to that truth. The rest of summer passed in a blur of additional training, careful social activities, and increasing awareness of the surveillance around them. The financial network Marcus had identified led to multiple arrests, his name carefully kept from all reports, though certain people knew exactly who had made the initial discovery. You're becoming a legend, Natasha told him when they met before school started. The 13-year-old who caught an international terrorist financing ring. It was luck, Marcus deflected. Stop saying that. Own your capabilities. False modesty doesn't serve anyone. She was right, but Marcus struggled with the balance between confidence and arrogance. He'd seen what hubris could lead to. Westfield had taught him that lesson well. 9th grade began at a new school, a private academy in D.C. specifically for children of government officials. The security was extraordinary, the curriculum adapted for students who might follow their parents into intelligence work. Marcus found himself automatically placed in advanced programs, his reputation preceding him. Teachers treated him with a respect unusual for a 14-year-old. Fellow students regarded him with mixture of awe and wariness. You're the one who stopped the Westfield attack, a sophomore named Jake said on his first day. My father stopped it. I just hid in a closet. That's not what I heard. The stories had grown in the telling, Marcus realized. He'd become something between reality and myth, a figure whose actual accomplishments were impressive enough, but had been embellished by rumor and speculation. He tried to establish normalcy, joining the debate team, participating in coding competitions, carefully modulating his performance, even attempting to date, disastrously. But always underneath was the awareness of what he was being prepared for. You could walk away, David told him one evening after Marcus had expressed frustration with the constant surveillance and evaluation. We could move somewhere quiet. I could take a private sector job. You could have a normal high school experience. Marcus considered it seriously. The appeal of normalcy, of freedom from constant vigilance, was strong. But then he thought about the threats that existed, the operations he'd already been part of stopping, the future capabilities he was developing. No, he said finally, this is who I am now. Walking away won't change that. You're sure? I'm sure. The decision felt final. A crossing of a threshold he'd been approaching since that day at Westfield, when Mr. Harrison had mocked him for telling the truth. He was choosing the life that had been choosing him all along. Winter brought new challenges. The Volkov intelligence leaks had triggered responses from multiple foreign services. David's position made him a target, and by extension, Marcus became one too. The security around them tightened further. I haven't been alone in 3 months, Marcus told Natasha during one of their training sessions. Welcome to the life, she replied. My father hasn't been truly alone in 15 years. How does he stand it? By believing the sacrifice is worth it. Is it? Marcus thought about the financial network he'd exposed, the attacks that had been prevented because of it. Yes, then you stand it. The year progressed with a strange combination of typical teenage experiences and exceptional training. Marcus attended homecoming. with 3 undercover agents in attendance, competed in national cyber defense competitions, holding back just enough to win without drawing excessive attention, and continued his advanced intelligence training, now including basic fieldcraft and counter-surveillance techniques. "You're being fast-tracked," Ms. Yamamoto told him during one of his visits back to Arlington Prep. "I've never seen anything like it. For what? For whatever you choose. CIA, NSA, FBI, they're all watching, all hoping you'll choose them when the time comes." "What if I choose none of them?" She smiled. "Then you'll be the best protected civilian in America. They won't let talent like yours go unwatched, even if you don't formally join." It was a sobering thought. True freedom was already lost to him, traded for capability and knowledge he couldn't unlearn. Spring arrived with unexpected news. Dmitry Volkov, Anton's son, had been accepted to MIT under his witness protection identity. He reached out through secure channels, requesting another meeting. "I wanted you to know I'm trying to make amends," he said when they met in a secure facility. "I'm working with the FBI, helping them understand my father's networks." "That's dangerous," Marcus observed. "So is doing nothing." "My father's actions. I can't undo them, but I can try to prevent others from following his path." Marcus studied him, seeing genuine determination mixed with guilt. "Be careful. Your father had loyalists who won't appreciate your cooperation." "I know, but it's the right thing to do." After Dmitry left, Agent Chen, who had overseen the meeting, approached Marcus. "What's your assessment?" she asked. "He's sincere, but vulnerable. His guilt makes him potentially reckless. Would you work with him?" Marcus considered. "With proper safeguards, yes. He has unique insights into his father's organization." Chen nodded approvingly. "That's what we concluded too. Your confirmation helps." Marcus realized he'd just been consulted as an analyst, not a protected asset. The shift was subtle, but significant. As 9th grade ended, David received another promotion, Director of Cyber Intelligence. It was a massive responsibility and recognition of his exceptional service. "This changes things," he told Marcus. "The visibility, the threats, they'll all increase." "I know. We could still—" "No," Marcus interrupted. "We don't run. We adapt." David smiled slightly. "When did you become the adult in this relationship?" "Somewhere between Westfield and now." That summer, Marcus was invited to participate in an even more exclusive program, a joint intelligence community initiative for exceptional young analysts. The participants were all under 25, identified as future leaders in intelligence work. Marcus was still the youngest by far, but the gap was closing. His analyses were sophisticated, his instincts sharp, his ability to see patterns unmatched. "You're going to run an agency someday," predicted Alex, a 22-year-old already working for the NSA. "I'm 15, Marcus pointed out, "and already better than analysts twice your age. Age is just a number in our world. Capability is what matters." The program culminated in a real-world exercise, analyzing an ongoing situation and providing recommendations. Marcus's team was assigned to assess cyber threats from a specific nation-state actor. As they worked through the data, Marcus noticed something others had missed, a pattern in the attack signatures that suggested a different origin than assumed. "These aren't from who we think," he told his team leader. "Look at the code structure. It's designed to mimic their style, but there are tells." "You're suggesting it's a false flag operation?" "I'm saying the evidence points that way." His analysis proved correct. The attacks were indeed false flag operations, designed to increase tensions between nations. His team's report led to a significant shift in diplomatic approach, potentially preventing an international incident. "You did it again," Alex said afterward. "Saw what everyone else missed." I just looked at the data objectively. No, you saw through deception to truth. That's a rare gift. The recognition was gratifying, but also isolating. Marcus found himself increasingly separated from normal teenage life, existing in a space between childhood and the adult world of intelligence. "I don't fit anywhere," he confided to David one evening. "You fit where you're needed," his father replied. "That's not always comfortable, but it's valuable." As summer ended and 10th grade approached, Marcus received an unexpected visitor. The Director of National Intelligence himself came to their house, a virtually unprecedented event. "Marcus," he said after the formal greetings, "I want to discuss your future." "I'm 15, sir." "Yes, and already contributing at a level that exceeds many veteran analysts. We need to talk about how to best develop and protect your capabilities." The conversation that followed was frank and sobering. Marcus was being offered something unique, a tailored program that would prepare him for immediate entry into intelligence work upon turning 18, with full scholarship to any university and guaranteed placement in any agency he chose. "It's a commitment," the director emphasized. "Not legally binding, but morally significant. We'd be investing heavily in your development." "What's the catch?" Marcus asked, knowing there always was one. "Your freedom becomes even more limited. Every aspect of your life would be monitored and managed for security. Dating, friendships, travel, all would require approval." "So nothing changes," Marcus said with dark humor. The director smiled slightly. "Your perspective is refreshingly honest. I need time to think." "Of course." "But Marcus, understand, with or without this program, you're already on a path. This just formalizes it." After he left, Marcus sat with David in the secure room, both silent for a long moment. "What do you think?" Marcus finally asked. "I think you've already decided," David replied. "You decided at Westfield when you saw what threats really exist. You decided when you identified that financial network. You decide every day when you choose to develop these skills rather than resist them. So I should accept. You should do what aligns with who you've become. Not who you were, not who you might have been, but who you are now." Marcus knew his father was right. The boy who'd been mocked in Mr. Harrison's classroom was gone, replaced by someone shaped by extraordinary circumstances into something equally extraordinary. "I'll accept," he said quietly. David nodded, pride and sadness mingling in his expression. "Then we'll make sure you're the best prepared intelligence officer of your generation." "Officer? I'm not even old enough to drive." "Not yet. But time moves quickly in our world." Our world. Marcus had finally fully accepted it. This was his world now. Shadows and secrets, threats and analysis, constant vigilance and occasional victory. It wasn't the childhood he'd imagined, but it was the one he'd been given, and he would make the most of it. The formal agreement was signed a week later, witnessed by officials whose names Marcus wasn't even allowed to know. His path was set, his future determined by capabilities discovered in crisis and honed through necessity. Mr. Harrison, back at Westfield, would never know that his mockery had helped forge one of the youngest intelligence assets in American history. The boy he'd dismissed as a liar would grow up to protect the very freedoms Harrison took for granted. And somewhere in maximum security, Anton Volkov sat in his cell, unaware that the child he'd tried to use as leverage had become something far more dangerous than he could have imagined, a protector shaped by the very threats Volkov had embodied. Marcus Williams, once a bullied child claiming his father worked in national security, had become the proof that sometimes the most unlikely origins produce the most exceptional outcomes. His vindication was complete, but more importantly, his transformation was just beginning. The story that started with mockery in a classroom would continue in briefing rooms and operation centers, in digital networks and real-world threats, always guided by the lesson learned that day at Westfield. Truth doesn't need belief to be real, but it does need defenders to survive. And Marcus would be one of those defenders, shaped by adversity into something his tormentors could never have imagined. Not just vindicated, but vital.